Welcome to our today's release presentation. And we are super thrilled to show you all the new stuff the team has worked on over the past 6 months. And the new release has also a fabulous name called Synera 24.11 with the name Legendary Loki. And as you know, it's not me doing all the hard job. It's a huge team behind me. And I'm super thrilled that I have my two beloved product managers with me today on stage, Sophie and Andrew.
Thanks, Daniel.
So we have a lot of things to show you. So let's dive in. So as mentioned, the teams work pretty heavily on new stuff, and we almost made the 100. So we have over 90, or to be very accurate, 99 new features in this new release. And also we worked heavily on robustness and improvements. So we also fixed a lot of bugs thanks to your support also for this great community. And we have today the topic we want to talk about getting more results from your workflow. And this really in all the different areas, either in Run or with new nodes or with new disciplines. So you will see a lot of things within the next couple of minutes. We have prepared 4 highlight topics. So stay tuned. Maybe you can already guess when you see the icons. And as always, we start with some major updates into Synera Run. And for that, I'm more than thrilled to hand over to Sophie.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Yeah, so in Synera Run, results are a huge topic. You know that getting value from a workflow in Synera Run is solely from the results of that workflow. And that's actually in contrary to the editor, where you also build the automations and get value from that. And this is why in Legendary Loki, we remove now any barriers that consumers may face to getting the results that they created with the workflow. That means for the lifetime of a session, you can now always access and download the results without needing any tokens to do so. Also, there are now less options for human errors because we standardize file formats. And the tokens that you have in your pool are utilized better because they're only blocked when you actually calculate and not by inactive sessions. So the creators get more responsibilities because they are the experts of the automations, and we trust you to handle this very well. You now define the output formats of your downloadable outputs. You can choose that in the sidebar, in the output section, and here you standardize the file format for your workflow. In the front end for the consumer, we can, because of that, simplify the layout. And the consumers now don't need any knowledge about what file extensions are actually needed. They just click download, and by that, there's no option for them to create an error in the process because this is now standardized and the automation can run without any problems. Let's take a look at what the download and the token drawer look like in action. So once a consumer clicks on a link, a browser tab opens with the workflow and the session is started. And there they can enter some inputs, maybe they upload something, and once they click on run, a computation is started. And this computation draws the needed tokens from the token pool. At this point, our consumer might go for a lunch break or start a different task. The computation might run a while. And minimizes the steps, forgets about it. And while the consumer is gone, the tokens are being checked in again into the token pool because the computation finishes and the results are available. Now, at some point, our consumer remembers this tab and this session of Synera Run, and at any point, they can download the results from the session. They don't need any tokens to do so. And this is repeatable as long as the session is alive. There's no timeout for sessions anymore. So every time you want to run a computation, tokens are being checked out and then checked in again at the end of the computation. And the session is only closed when the consumer decides to close the tab. And with that, then the session is closed and also the results are unavailable. All right. So yeah, this is the easy result access coming for Synera Run with legendary Loki now. And this will ensure that you get consistent and simplified result access with good token utilization. And with that, I would like to come to the next highlight of Synera Run. This is a big one that's been highly requested, especially by our enterprise accounts. And it's user and access management for Synera Run. And with that, we will enable everybody to securely and confidently roll out Synera Run to a really large user base. The first thing to know here is that we are introducing roles and permissions. The permissions are tied to the user role. We have first our consumer. Consumers are allowed to run workflows that are shared with them specifically or that are shared with the entire company. Then we have creators. Creators are allowed to publish workflows to the server. They can then decide who's allowed to run their workflows. They can also delete them again from the server and manage them. They can view sessions and close them of their workflows. And they also get some insights about how the workflows are used. And then there's the admin. Basically, admins can do everything creators are able to do, but they have all these rights for every workflow on the server. So not just for the ones they publish themselves, but every single workflow. And they also assign the roles to the users in their company. Okay, so while we want to add security for you to confidently roll out Synera Run, we do not want to add any additional barriers for the adoption of Synera Run, of course. This is why we introduce single sign-on. With your company account, you will be logged in and can then get the right permissions and use the workflow without doing anything. So yeah, actually the beauty of this feature is that I can't show you anything. It's happening all in the background. No interaction needed. And I can directly go to the next slide. So I said we don't want to add any barriers. We want to remove them actually and make it easier for you to adopt Synera Run workflows in your company. That's why we improved the sharing dialog. So you are now able to access this from the server overview page and also the Run front end. And there you then get the link directly to share the workflow with other consumers. Okay, so access control is a big part of user and access management, of course. You get very granular control over who is allowed to run workflows, and this will make it easier to manage license resources. You can ensure compliance and efficient utilization. There's the option to share a workflow with everybody in your company. Then you can select individual users or people inside your company or groups in your company that are allowed to access the workflow. And of course, if somebody unauthorized tries to click a link for a Synera Run workflow, they're refused access. Then we have a big update for the server overview page, which before was just meant for the server admin. So not that many of you actually have seen it before. And this is now for everybody, and you get it customized based on your role and your individual permissions. So for the consumers, this is an overview page of all the workflows that they personally are allowed to use. So they can directly open every single workflow from this page and use it and speed up their work with these workflows. Then we have our creators. They see quite a bit more on this page. So of course, they also get all the workflows they personally are allowed to use. But then they have an extra section with the workflows that they created themselves and published. And for these workflows, they can see all the sessions that are currently active and the computation state. They see usage insights, so they can tell how the workflows are being adopted. And then also they can delete workflows. This is removing some dependency they before had to the admin, because now they can clean up and manage the workflows on the server themselves. And then the page for the admin looks quite similar, with the only difference that it's not just their own workflows, but everybody's workflows. And now I would like to show to you the actions we can do here, or show it in action. So this is now our server admin. The admin is able to actually change the name of the server, and you see here the overview of all the users on the server, and the admin can change the roles. They can also add new users to the server. By default, that's always a consumer, and then change if that person should be a creator or an admin. They see all the workflows that are published to the server. They have the power to close sessions. They can also manage the workflows by deleting them. And they can also change the access settings. So they can say, this workflow actually shouldn't be publicly available. This should just be shared with individual users, and do that for every workflow on the server. So you see here the changes they just made. All right, and for the creator, there's also a small change in the editor. So now they can manage the servers in case that there's multiple run servers at a company. They can connect to them, and here you see single sign-on happening in the background. So once you logged into a server, you can try to publish to it. There's a permission check in the background. If you're authorized, you are able to publish. It directly opens in the front end, and you can set the sharing settings. And here, the creators on the server overview page, they see the workflows they published. Again, they're able to close sessions and delete their own workflows from the server, not having to ask the admin to do this work for them. And then we have our consumer. Not a lot has changed here. Just if they're not authorized to use a workflow, they get this page. If they're authorized to use a workflow, they, as usual, can upload their inputs, run workflows, get results as they're used to. But they can also share and see if something is actually accessible by everybody in the company. And then they have this nice overview page where they can actually browse and search for other workflows that might be useful for them that are shared inside the entire company. So we now, with legendary Loki, allow you to prevent unauthorized changes or access to workflow, to speed up the adoption of run workflows, to provide knowledge about how workflows are used and adopted, and you are empowered to better manage the server and the workflows on the server. And then single sign-on reduces the frictions and allows seamless integration. All of this coming together means you can now securely roll out Synera Run company-wide. Yeah, those are the exciting updates from Synera Run. And my colleague Andrew and his team have been working very hard so that you can get more results. I think we're all very curious to learn about that. So yeah, I'm very excited to hand over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Sophie. Really amazing stuff going on there with Synera Run. And I know a few accounts in particular, I think, are very excited to see some of these new capabilities. Yeah, as Daniel hinted at the start, maybe from the images presented here, it's pretty clear. And it's, time for Synera to get explicit. Maybe not that explicit. I'd say it's freaking cool what we've done here and what the team's achieved. So starting with the new release today, we actually have the ability to start to create explicit dynamic analyses inside Synera for LS-DYNA. And so for that, we've created a few new cards. To be clear, this is a very long-term project for us with a lot of work still going into it. But today you'll be able to achieve the ability to do things like drop tests. So we can see here actually visualizing the results from an LS-DYNA analysis. You can see the deleted elements removed from the results presentation here. And now let's take a look at what it actually takes to construct this. So my colleague Jess went in and he wanted to actually modify an existing drop test. And to do that, he had to change out a few different cards. He was going to change out the initial velocity, a few body loads, even the curve defining the drop itself. And so now with this new construct bulk data card for LS-DYNA, you're able to construct those cards and then very easily using text-based manipulations, inject them back into your analysis. We now have an LS-DYNA FEA solver node that takes a file path. So you can use this text-based input deck, run it on your machine. Maybe some of you are going to run it on a cluster using the SSH nodes, and then visualize the results there. So initially, early on in this first release, we're targeting things like drop tests or modifying existing analyses that you may already have, or you just want to change a few parameters, material card perhaps. And so to do that, we've added then a few new nodes. So to start out with, we have the new LS-DYNA FEA solver node, again, that takes a file path, so you can plug in a text-based .k file there to run with the solver, and you'll get the model results back into Synera. We've also added the file path for the Abacus FEA solver node as well, and so you'll actually be able to construct your own Abacus explicit analyses and bring those results back into Synera as well. We've, like for the solver node, added a new import LS-DYNA model node, and this allows you, again, to import your LS-DYNA results, your D3 plot results. The nice thing here too is, again, Abacus explicit, if you have an analysis set up there, we're going to allow you to bring in the results without needing an input deck. So you can directly read in Abacus explicit results. And we're also supporting Altair Radios. So if you have an H3D file coming from Radios, you can also import that right into your Synera workflow. To allow you to really precisely interact with your LS-DYNA input decks, we've added 2 new cards. You're familiar from the past release with all of our construct bulk data card for Mastran, OptiStruct, and other solvers that allows you to easily construct those bulk data cards you want to put into your input deck. But now we're adding also the find LS-DYNA card. This will allow you to easily read through your input deck, find a specific card that you want to replace, capture out the start and end indices of that card, and then replace it. So this is great if you want to, again, find a certain load, find a material. You can actually search through your input deck very easily and now start to replace those. Again, great for some of the basic workflows, but the question is, how far can you really go with what we've created today? And I want to call out one of our friends, Leopold, who actually went through and made a very detailed analysis here just to show what, if you're a really advanced user here, what you can do with the new nodes. So we actually went through and constructed an analysis of a crash box inside Synera, the entire workflow using some of these new nodes, new solver nodes. So, not a full vehicle simulation, but subcomponent assembly analysis is definitely possible now with Synera. So we can see here the results of this. The nice thing, right, you can start to couple the design capabilities of Synera, maybe to do a design study on that cross-section of that structure in your crash box to optimize there. So incredibly excited with what we've done so far today with explicit analysis inside Synera. A lot more to come in our next release early next year. The team is hard at work already today on some of those new capabilities. But coming in Legendary Loki, we'll have the new solver node, the ability to read in results and interrogate results for those explicit result types, and then the ability to easily insert any card into your LS-DYNA deck. Of course, when we talk about getting results from workflows, it's not just explicit. We still have a lot going on in the world of nonlinear implicit analysis. And so we're going to continue our progress there. And so last release, we added our first ability for contact for solvers outside OptiStruct. This release, based on customer requests, we added even further capabilities for Abacus Standard. And we've also added the ability to have contact with our own internal solver. We still have 3 more solvers to go on our roadmap here. So in our first release in 2025, expect to see MSC Nastran, ANSYS Mechanical, and SimCenter Nastran. But let's take a look at what you can do today inside Synera. So here we have a gap between 2 components. Very simple analysis to just demonstrate here that we now have the ability to do a kind of tied contact between our parts in our analyses, whether we're using OptiStruct, Abacus, or now the Synera FEA solver as well. So really excited to see what folks end up creating here. Again, we continue to extend these nonlinear capabilities for our solvers. So this release, we're adding elastoplastic materials for Abacus standard. So that ability to import your stress strain curves, your work hardening data, or your nonlinear analyses, especially when you're working with kind of metallic materials. This is going to be really useful to help you really get the most out of your analysis here. The other thing that we've started to do is introduce persistent indexing for loads, boundary conditions, materials, sets. You may say this sounds like something not really exciting and not very interesting, but again, we find having this indexing is really going to help if you want to go in and update cards manually. So perhaps you just want to swap out some information. This index will help you very easily find a specific load boundary condition material inside your existing input deck. We're starting in Legendary Loki only with the OptiStruct solver, and then hopefully in our upcoming release, we'll add support for further solvers as well. The other thing that's really exciting is we're adding more pre-processing capabilities. So how you can actually take your geometry and make it more simulation ready. So the nice thing about Synera, right, we have the Parasol geometry kernel under the hood, and we're just giving you more capabilities here to do some of these operations that make setting up FEA analyses extremely tedious in your existing tools. And so imagine we can now select some surfaces that we want to delete from our model. And now using the delete surface node, we can very easily then up with a simplified model here with removing some of those surfaces. So I think quite a few of you watching actually do a lot of defeaturing operations with Synera, removing small holes, eliminating gaps. Definitely take a look at delete surfaces, extend body, and delete curves. I think these are going to be a huge help to a lot of folks doing some of these, automating some of these tedious operations today. So again, to recap of what we've done on the implicit FEA side, we've added more nonlinear materials for Abacus standard. We've started the introduction of persistent IDs for loads, boundary conditions, materials to allow you to more easily swap out data in your deck for those of you doing text-based manipulation. We've added more contacts in this release and more planned in our next release, and a nice set of capabilities to eliminate some of that manual work in pre-processing your models to get them ready for simulation. So these were some of the big topics that we worked on, but of course there's a lot of other features. Daniel mentioned 99 features going into this release. I think everyone wanted one more to hit that 100 mark, but I'm sure next release will have even more fun features. And so, we put these all into improvement categories. On the product management team, we get a lot of feature ideas. I can tell you we read all of them. We can't do every single one of them, but we've added a few, I think, that will really satisfy quite a few people there on the call today. So, today when you operate inside Synera, you create a sphere, it's visualized. You go in, you want to color that geometry, you construct your color. When we visualize that, again, we're seeing all of these things come up on the screen all at once. We have to turn on and off nodes to visualize the right thing. And this can be really a burden if you're creating really large workflows. And so now we've added a new setting. If you go under Canvas tools, or tools settings, and then the Canvas section, there's a default node visibility option now that will be turned on to visible by default, but you can actually turn that to not visible. And what will happen now is when you work inside your model, as you add new nodes to the canvas, the visibility will be turned off by default. It sounds trivial, but I know for quite a few of you, this was taking a bit of time for you to go in and manually turn off each one of these nodes. So I'm sure that for you power users out there, this is really going to help speed up some of your workflows. We've added the ability to start to create zip archive files directly inside Synera. So you'll be able to zip and unzip data. This is nice if you're maybe generating a large batch of images for your report, you can simply zip that together and reduce the size of those files there. Or maybe you want to use some zip data inside your analysis, your workflow. Another pain that came up was people were having to manually modify the file path to end up with a directory path. And so we've made that a bit easier now. You'll have simply 2 new containers, one for relative directory path and one for directory path. They can start to plug in to some of your favorite nodes that you're already using today. So hopefully eliminating some of the tedious work in constructing some Synera workflows. We've also added new nodes that will help out in reporting and image generation. So the ability to capture a sub-image, so a selection of an image. This is going to be useful if you want to capture maybe the legend of a simulation result and then use that in multiple different images further on in your report, and also the ability now to deconstruct views that you're using to generate those screenshots. Like I mentioned early on for LS-DYNA, now because we added file path, but we didn't stop there. So we added it for Nastran, SimCenter Nastran, Abacus, and OptiStruct. So all of our FEA solvers will have this ability to simply provide a file path rather than having to construct the model directly inside Synera. I think this will help out quite a few of you in some of those more complex analyses that you're working on. We've also now, for our export and import of 3MF, we've added the ability to actually import and export colors. I know there's one customer in particular, or maybe 2 out there, that are very interested in this. Myself, a big fan of the 3MF format, happy to see this ability now to have that color data brought in and exported as well. We've added a new option for the FEA solver, and this is going to allow you to create a separate process for the FEA solver. So sometimes maybe it was a bit more difficult to cancel the process as it was a bit long running. You now have the option to spawn a separate process, and this will give you more cancelability. We've also gone in some of our filtering operations for FEA where we found they were very long running, and added in more checkpoints to allow for cancellation there, to allow you better control of your workflow in certain instances. A few more customer requests here. So we've added the find regex inputs on replace text now. Merging dictionaries has a recursive operation. And for those of you using dynamic controls, we've added a dictionary output as well. So when you construct that dynamic control, you can actually get out exactly what you put in. Of course, plenty of other additional features and capabilities going into the new release. But let's talk about some of our marketplace updates, an area near and dear to my heart. So from our last release to this release, we've added 6 new add-ins to the marketplace. So we've added the NavPack connector from Navasto, great for those of you looking to do AI machine learning on simulation results. Arc Engineering has actually released quite a few new add-ins. So they've brought to the marketplace the Facton connector for those of you looking to do some costing workflows. This is really interesting. There, they've brought an additional optimization algorithm. They brought their toolbox of their tips and tricks, how to create more performant Synera workflows with the Arc toolbox. And of course, as I mentioned before, we've really released, I would say for the first time, the LS-DYNA connector with a full set of capabilities from Synera. So just to get an idea of what we could do with, or you can do with the NavPack connector, it's really targeted at creating AI models using your simulation results. Here you can see an example where Navasto has used it for predicting crash simulation results. Maybe interesting for those of you starting to use some of our new explicit dynamic nodes. Also useful for CFD or maybe doing some simulations on complex lattice structures. It's really a lot of things maybe possible now. Excited to see what some customers come up with there. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Daniel.
Thanks, Andrew. It's really this kind of a goosebumps moment when I'm watching what you and your teams have received over the last couple of months. So yeah, to wrap it, what have we seen today? We saw the new release 24.11 Legendary Loki with a bunch of new features. So Synera Run make a giant leap into enterprises now. So we are covering long-running tasks, but also give you the full permission schema to really roll it out inside of your organization. And a lot of new nodes, especially in the field of simulation, implicit and explicit. We saw some new improved nodes and massive updates on the marketplace. So we are really keen and looking forward to get your hands on and give us feedback to it. And the question is, when will it be released? And I can tell you, the team made it again. So it is available today. We just made the download accessible for you. So you can go, as a good call to action, to be honest, go on portal.synera.io, download the newest version, Legendary Loki, get your hands on, give us feedback. And I hope you will enjoy the new release so much as we do during the last months that we tested it very heavily for you guys. So with this being said, I would love to say thank you to all the participants who joined today. Also, thank you so much to Sophie and Andrew and the whole development team who was heavily involved in making these a giant pack of new features. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a lot of fun with these new capabilities.